Okay, I think now it is available for everyone.
Yes, in the it's actually been recorded automatically, right?
Yes, it is a recording. Yes.
Hello, Paris.
I will use now the given background. I just need a minute.
I'm also trying to change the background.
You need to upload.
I know, but I have a guest version of Teams. I'm not sure I'm able to do so. Yeah, no, I can't do this. I can't upload the background because I have a guest version of Teams. But okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. So just a few. But okay, we are already 12 here. Nice.
Can you hear me?
So it's 10 o'clock. Should we start or should we wait a few minutes for more people to join? I think we can start on time if this is okay for you. Just wait a few seconds.
Yes, Claudia. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Indeed. Okay. We are already a few participants. I have a few people watching live. Thank you very much for being here. Shall we start now? Panayota, what do you think? Can we go ahead?
Yes, I see people are joining. I think
Mhm.
just if we can have another 1-2 minutes, Claudia, and then we can proceed with the introduction and the presentations.
In the meantime, Panayota, can you maybe share the presentation so we have the agenda on our screens that we can see what is going to happen today, at least before we start. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, we are about 46 people connected.
Just please make sure to admit people because I'm sharing my screen and I cannot see the lobby.
All the speakers are able to do so, while unfortunately I am not. So
I will.
thank you.
I think, Claudia, we can probably start and people will be joining.
Yes,
if
it's
needed.
a few minutes after 10. I think we can start. There is a very nice number of participants. So thank you very much for joining this online session. This online workshop, Enhancing Accessibility and Sustainability in Smart Cities and Smart Buildings. This workshop happens in the framework of the EU Sustainable Energy Week 2025, which, as you may know, is an important platform that brings together policymakers, researchers, practitioners, and citizens with the aim of accelerating the green transition across Europe. So this workshop perfectly aligns with the EU Sustainable Energy Week's core mission, promoting inclusive, sustainable innovation that leaves no one behind, as we collectively rethink urban environments to be more energy efficient and resilient. It is crucial to ensure that they are also accessible and welcoming for all, including people in vulnerable situations. So today we will explore how two European projects was financed by Horizon Europe, AccesS and InclusiveSpaces, are addressing this challenge by combining technology, universal design, and user-driven innovation. So let me briefly introduce you the agenda of this online session. We will briefly begin with the presentation of each project, outlining their scope and ambitions. And then this session will be followed by an update on ongoing research and engagement activities, where each project team will share early findings, co-design insights, and emerging tools from accessibility to inclusive navigation system. And then we are happy to host a keynote contribution from the Shift project, which is a partner project from AccesS, and which will offer a broader reflection on inclusive innovation in the context of sustainable cultural heritage. And then we will open the floor to a panel discussion featuring the project's leads or project coordinators, where we will debate how inclusive innovation can become a pillar of the energy transition. And finally, we will open up for your questions and thoughts in an interactive Q&A session before wrapping up with a few closing remarks and an invitation to stay connected with the projects as they evolve. So we hope that this session will inspire new conversations and connections across disciplines and sectors, and also that remind us that a green transition must also be a just transition. So let's get started. I will now pass the floor to the project project presentations. For AccesS, I will pass the floor to Panayota Panagiotou, and for InclusiveSpaces to Lydia Buenavida Peña. Thank you very much for being here today and enjoy the conversation.
Thank you, Claudia, for the introduction. I assume you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Panayota Panagiotou from the coordination team of CERT ITI for the AccesS project. AccesS stands for Enhancing Accessibility and Sustainability in Smart Cities and Smart Buildings, the Universal Accessibility Suite initiative. The project vision is to create barrier-free environments, facilitate smooth mobility, and revolutionize the accessibility and inclusivity of smart buildings and smart cities, enabling equal access to essential services and facilities. In this context, AccesS aims to provide customization and personalization, sustainable and energy-efficient infrastructure design, operation management and optimization, universal design principles in products, simulation-based testing and compliance with accessibility guidelines, and on top of all, a common classification system for accessibility features. We are 22 partners from 9 countries, including 5 innovative SMEs, 2 technology and software industry and technology providers, 4 research centers and academia, 2 nonprofit organizations representing end user and social science association, 1 standardization body, and 5 end user representatives for pilot demonstration countries. The project objectives include the formulation of a user-centered design approach for social inclusion and accessibility in smart cities and smart buildings. AccesS aims to deliver digital innovations for the design of accessible, inclusive, and sustainable built environments and promote inclusive, adaptive, and sustainable building operation and mobility management under the smart city context. The project also aims to develop a standardized framework for inclusive and accessible built environments in the European Union and foster innovation, public awareness, and industry collaboration. The project results will be demonstrated and evaluated in 6 pilot cases and demonstrate the Universal Accessibility Initiative in smart cities. The novel elements of the project are based on a methodological framework formulating the basis of a user-centered design approach that will enhance the capability of AccesS partners to effectively address and leverage social inclusion and accessibility. These guidelines will formulate the basis for the development activities of the AccesS solutions. A comprehensive accessibility assessment scheme for the built environment to address usability, safety, comfort, and social inclusion in the standards and define clear and measurable criteria, guidelines, and performance indicators for accessibility. This is the main focus of our workshop today, having first results on this scheme. And the project also delivers digital innovation supporting both accessible and inclusive design, as well as adaptive and sustainable operation of the built environment, integrated all together under an inclusive toolbox, the Universal Accessibility Suite. The pilot sites are grouped under 3 cases, depending on the type of building and use. We have the case of cultural heritage buildings with the Christo and Jean-Claude Center in Gabrovo, Bulgaria. The center's renovation is at the design stage, and it will offer a great opportunity to incorporate specific accessibility requirements for vulnerable people from the design phase. The Brancacci Chapel in Florence, Italy. It's a monumental building, and it will focus on creating a pilot model as an open museum that is fully accessible to all. The case of people care facilities includes Dream the Task Foundation in Alde, Netherlands. It's a so-called parents initiative with the aim to assess building and surroundings area accessibility, improve people's lives, and actually reduce dependency and support from assistants and users to enhance inclusivity for residents. The case of Casa Girasol in Massagno, Switzerland, it's a people care facility focusing on improving energy and indoor air quality and developing an accessible EV charging system in the parking area of the building to be used by visitors and workers. And the last case of public services buildings includes the Palazzo di Città in Bari, Italy at this point, and Mercado de Verónicas in Murcia, Spain, with the objective to transform the market into an inclusive space for individuals with disabilities and vulnerable groups, and ensure free step access for all in the market. This concludes the presentation. Here you can find more information on the project and social media. And I'm happy to give the floor to our sister project, InclusiveSpaces.
Thank you, Panegiota. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Lidia Buenavida Peña, and I am a project manager at Archico ITS Europe. And we are very proud to be part of the Inclusive Spaces project, and we are the communication and dissemination leader in this project. So before I go over what the project is about, the scope, etc., I would like to highlight one of the many reasons that we started this project and how it came to be, and that is that 27% of the EU population in 2022 over the 16 years of age had some form of disability, and that's 101 million people that are facing daily barriers. To top that up, Europe's population also continues to age, and the necessity of an inclusive urban space has never been more critical than now. With that in mind, we started the Inclusive Spaces project. I think the name kind of already tells you a bit what this is about. We want to make spaces more inclusive, and this translates to specifically what we work on is designing tools and frameworks for creating an accessible and inclusive built environment for all, and for now, but also for the future. The 3 main objectives that we have in this project are, so the first one, we realize an inclusive design, monitor and evaluation of urban spaces, and then we introduce co-design accessibility concepts and we engage people with disabilities and older people to improve inclusiveness, also social cohesion, and climate change mitigation and adaptation. It is important to highlight that inclusivity and accessibility go hand in hand with sustainability. And our final objective is that we develop socially innovative solutions that foster universal design principles, empower diverse target groups, and promote climate-friendly practices. So how are we going to be reaching all of these objectives, you may ask? So one of the key things that we focus on are our innovations that will allow us to make spaces more inclusive and at the same time still be climate friendly. So on the left side of the screen, you can see a bit the tools that we have, let's say, on the tools, etc. that we have. And on the right side, you will see we have a bit more technologies, but also more what I will call the physical services, so tangible services in that sense. So if we go on the left side, on the upper side, we will see the accessibility routing and the accessibility mapping. So the routing part is mainly focusing people with blindness to help them move around cities, to create a route for them moving around cities, and this will be deployed in Athens and Hamburg. In the second one on that area, accessibility mapping, when we think about any other accessibility tools, they usually assess time, distance, and cost, but here we also wanted to give another dimension, that is comfort. So that is also an important one. Then if we go down still on the left, so the travel demand data collection. So this is going to be very useful, especially for public authorities, public transport authorities, etc., to know exactly how people move, and especially the groups, vulnerable groups that we are targeting. This is going to be deployed in Geneva, Larnaca, and Budapest. Then we have also the accessibility design evaluation. So evaluation of how the design of accessibility is in the cities, and this is going to be deployed in Madrid and Larnaca. Now, if we go to the right side, we have, let's say, the three more tangible ones that I will call: the mobility station kiosk, the inclusive upright tricycle, and the IC truck. So on the first one, mobility station kiosk, that will be deployed in Athens, Larnaca, and Hamburg. As you can see, the kiosk will be maybe here it's not very clear in the picture, but it will be solar energy charging the electric wheelchairs and other modes that will be available there. So very sustainable option for charging. On the right side, so the inclusive upright tricycle, I think in this case the image is very clear. The type of bicycle, so a tricycle that will allow for certain using more stability in the bicycles, allowing them to enjoy going on a ride. This will be deployed in Hamburg and Budapest. And then the final, let's say, tangible in a sense service is the IC truck that will be deployed in Larnaca and Hamburg, that will allow users to go into the sea. And this mechanism is going to be powered by, again, solar energy. So again, this kind of hand in hand back to the sustainability with the inclusivity. And the last two that I have on the left side, but is still in the right side, so the indoor assistive technologies and the outdoor assistive technologies. So technologies that will help assist people in their houses, but also outside. And this will be deployed for the indoor ones in Athens and Larnaca, and for the outdoor ones in Athens and Geneva. You might have realized, hopefully, that I missed one of them, and that is the Universal Design Manual. This is a bit on purpose because we have a version of the manual on a pilot in our website, and this links very well with my next slide, where you can, oh, this is not moving, where you can actually go to our website and check out the design and the Universal Design Manual. What you will find there is, I think it's at least 300 set of recommendations on design, inclusive design in different spaces, public spaces, work spaces, sorry, private spaces, etc. So have a look at it, because as it is in a pilot stage, you can come back to us, and in the website in itself, you can provide feedback to that. So I invite you to check it out, because it's very cool. And the slide that I passed over is just for you to see a bit where we are deploying in a different manner. So because it was written before, but in here you have a map showing where we will deploy all of our innovations in Europe. And with that, I give back the floor to go into our next section.
Thank you, Lydia. According to the agenda, we can move to project presentation results, and we can start with AccesS findings on the work on the accessibility assessment scheme by Paris Fokaidis from Frederick University. Paris, you are muted.
Excuse me. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Paris Fokaidis. I'm an associate professor and hopefully next month a full professor at Frederick University in Cyprus, and also a senior researcher at Frederick Research Center. Today, I will present the main findings of the stakeholders engagement activities that we have implemented within the AccesS project. That was an exercise that was carried out at the initial stages of the project towards collecting the input of stakeholders for developing an advanced assessment scheme for the accessibility of buildings that will also focus on the smart aspects of accessibility and inclusiveness. Now, I will start quickly with the presentation of our work in this work package. So what we are actually missing at this point, and this was one of the main gaps based on which the AccesS project was developed, was the fact that when we discussed about smart buildings and smart cities, we oftenly do not analyze, do not refer into detail into accessibility aspects. It is very characteristic the fact that the smart readiness indicator, which is the assessment scheme for the smartness of building, which has been adopted by the European Commission since 2018 and is going to be mandatory for large buildings in 2027, does not consider aspects of accessibility of buildings. And this is something that is of our major concern. And this is something that we would like to further analyze and introduce in terms of an advanced assessment scheme for the accessibility of buildings. Our main concept by now is that if we have physical access, then we consider that this is a full, this relates to full inclusiveness, which is not the case. Actually, the physical aspect access does not imply full inclusion. And to this end, our main purpose under the AccesS project is to deliver a scheme that will adapt to the real users' needs by integrating smart technologies into the accessibility aspects and by enhancing the existing inclusiveness policies in the sense of what was discussed earlier for the smart readiness of buildings. In just a nutshell, what we did under Work Package 3, which is one of the first work packages that was completed under AccesS project, we tried to map the gaps that we currently have in national standards concerning the accessibility of buildings and to lay the grounds for creating an assessment scoring scheme regarding the accessibility levels of buildings. And in order to do that, we organized 6 workshops with stakeholders among different member states with the purpose to integrate co-development aspects in our proposals that will be related to the development of a smartness accessibility scheme for the building sector in Europe and also for enhancing existing certificates by integrating smartness aspects. The engagement activities for the stakeholders were implemented between December 24 and February 25. The countries in which these activities were implemented were Cyprus, Greece, Spain, Netherlands, Romania, and Switzerland. We organized a total of 7 workshops and surveys, and we also had one-on-one consultation activities. We had over 100 participants from policy, design, urban and academic sectors. And as mentioned in the previous slide, the main goal was to co-create the accessibility certification framework for the end users that we envision to deliver under the AccesS project. In this slide, we give some more information related to the engagement activities. conducted in Cyprus, Netherlands, Romania, Spain, Greece, and Switzerland. And you can also see the dates and the type and the partners in charge for these activities. Now, the stakeholders categories that we engaged for these stakeholders engagement activities are demonstrated in this slide. We had disability and elder advocacy groups. We had, of course, architects and engineers. And at this point, it is very important to emphasize the fact that we place a lot of emphasis on the designers of the buildings. A large, let's say, portion of the researchers involved in our project come from the field of engineering. And our main concern as engineers is either when designing or when renovating a building to consider aspects that will enhance the accessibility and inclusiveness of the building. To this end, architects and engineers were one of the main stakeholders that we targeted with our activities. Also, we had urban planning authorities that participated to our activities, standardization bodies, in the sense that whichever activities we will and whichever proposals we will have out of our activities, we aim and we envision to have them integrated into future standards that will be established across Europe and will create the background for establishing the accessibility aspects. We also had municipalities and regional officials. I'm very happy to see that municipality of Larnaca is one of the main partners of InclusiveSpaces, and that some similar activities will also find place in Larnaca. And of course, we had stakeholders from research and academia. Now, if we could cluster the key barriers that were identified by the stakeholders engaged in this campaign, we would define them in 5 different categories. The first one would be the technical barriers that were described in our stakeholder engagement activities with regard to accessibility in buildings. This might be related to constraints that we have in heritage buildings or in aspects that are lacking from national legislations requesting minimum standards when buildings are retrofitted, or even in some cases to the fact that the terrain morphology for the access to the buildings are not thoroughly considered. We also found out that some standards were either fragmented or outdated, not considering aspects of smart buildings and of the building practices in 2025. And these were categorized under the legislative barriers. Also, the lack of incentives for the building upgrades was found to be a main barrier. In some occasions, there are legislative requirements for minimum standards, but we do not have, as in the case of energy or sustainability, financial incentives for buildings to improve their accessibility. And this could be one aspect that could be considered in future policies. The limited awareness and the digital exclusion were clustered under the social barriers, and these were also defined as main barriers for enhancing buildings accessibility. And of course, in some occasions, despite the fact that we do have the infrastructure and the background for promoting accessibility solutions in buildings, the operational performance in terms of poor implementation and low coordination were found by the stakeholders to be main key barriers of the accessible buildings. And as we said earlier, under these workshops, we realized and we extracted the conclusion that we need to shift the way we understand accessibility. So accessibility is not only about ramps and toilets, it's much more than that. In the era of smart cities and smart buildings, we need to enhance our understanding and the understanding of the society, of the stakeholders, of the engineers, of policymakers with regard to what is accessibility in buildings. We need to realize that there are elements, smart elements that we should integrate into our understanding regarding the accessibility of buildings, starting with cognitive and sensory access. This was named as one of the technologies that should be further advanced and promoted and integrated into accessible buildings. Also, the development of apps and signage for enhancing the experience of people with advanced requirements in accessibility in buildings in the sense of digital interaction. I'm opening a parenthesis here to say that one of the outcomes of the AccesS project, not referred in detail in this presentation, but it was at the early stages of the project, even at the stages where the idea was developed and the proposal was drafted, was a documentation of all existing apps that are used for enhancing the experience of building users in terms of accessibility. And out of this exercise, it was found out that there are significant gaps and there is still room for improvement for new applications and solutions for improving buildings accessibility. Also, aspects of emergency planning and social inclusion should be included when accessibility is redefined. And practices that we use for smart buildings like the BIM or the SRI should also be further developed in order to align their integration into smart buildings. SRI is a smart readiness indicator, the tool and the method that we referred to earlier, which at this point does not consider any aspects of accessibility in order to identify a building as a smart building. To the perspective of the stakeholders, this should be as well a major element for considering a building as smart, not just the performance of the building technical systems, but also the provisions for people with enhanced needs in accessibility. Now, if we could go country by country and see what were the major outcomes of the stakeholders' engagement activities. In the case of Cyprus, legal compliance was found to be one of the major obstacles preventing the establishment of accessible buildings, and strong emphasis was placed by the participants in improving conditions under legislation. Also, the stakeholders panel in Cyprus referred as a main barrier the thermal comfort and the lack of sensory guides within buildings. The thermal comfort is in general a topic in Cyprus, as Cyprus is one of the member states that introduced and adopted aspects of thermal comfort legislation too late in their legislation. Cyprus was one of the last member states proceeding in the adaptation of thermal comfort regulations, and also the lack of standards national standards that would allow the implementation of policies for smart buildings. In the case of Netherlands, physical and digital challenges were defined as main obstacles in terms of entries which are not friendly to users with enhanced requirements in accessibility, as well as inconsistent signage. Also, the fact that digitization is not implying accessibility by default was also one of the aspects that was defined as a major issue in the Netherlands workshops. And the need for the introduction of virtual user models, that is, of experiencing in a sense of co-creation in a virtual environment at the design stages of the building, in order also to collect the opinion and the approach and the perception of those citizens categories with enhanced assessment accessibility needs. So these tools were also defined as a major requirement for accessible buildings. In the case of Spain, the stakeholders emphasize the fact that accessibility should be framed as public safety and a welfare right. Critical gaps were identified for emergency evacuation and acoustics. And also the stakeholders proposed for advanced tools in terms of accessibility apps and perhaps tactical maps that could be used by for enhancing the accessibility of buildings. In Greece and Romania, one of the main outcomes was the need for integrating accessibility into BIM workflows. BIM are the building information modeling documents that the engineers are using and are also the designers for developing a building concept and for implementing and constructing buildings. So at this point, we don't have attributes that are related to accessibility, and this aspect should be included in order to enhance the way we design and we develop new buildings and their design. And in the case of Greece specifically, training gaps were identified, as well as the retrofitting costs for improving and including accessibility aspects. This is where the need for incentives for accessible buildings was discussed. And also in the case of Romania, the fragmented regulations and the over-reliance on digital tools was identified. Now, if we could go back and collect the main outcomes of the workshops and define what are the emerging themes, one of the main outcomes is that accessibility is not just for physical aspects. Of course, it is for physical aspects, but we should realize and adapt and identify the multidimensional character of accessibility. Also, there is an urgency for integrating and improving and enhancing and adapting smart technologies to improve accessibility in buildings. We should also consider cultural and geographical adaptations. And this was something that is not present in standards. If we go back to accessibility standards like 17 to 10, the adaptation aspects according to the physical environment and the specific conditions of a society are actually not considered. And of course, there is also a need for interoperability of the different tech solutions that are developed and proposed for accessible buildings. Now, the reason this was developed and delivered was in order to enhance and strengthen and support the quantitative scoring system that is currently being developed under the AccesS project, which will be adapted on the disability types, the assessment dimensions, and the evaluation criteria. And in all three aspects of the scoring system, the outcomes of the stakeholders' workshops will be considered, and also aspects of integrating this opinion into the different digital tools that are going to be developed within AccesS will also be considered. Another major aspect that was not thoroughly discussed with the stakeholders engagement workshops, but is for sure to be considered in the assessment scheme that AccesS project is currently developing, is related to the NEP values, the new European Bauhaus values. And for us, it's very important to adapt the scoring system and its rationale to the new European Bauhaus framework. That is why our decision, and that was delivered after the self-assessment methodology of the NEP was announced in September 24 was to adapt our scoring system to the NEP system in order to make our assessment scheme easily integratable into the new European Bauhaus values. This was one of the, let's say, dynamic adaptations of our assessment scheme, which resulted after the announcement of the self-assessment method of the new European Bauhaus. You realize that our work started in June 24. The assessment scheme was announced in September 24. So this was a dynamic readjustment that was decided during the implementation of our project. And with that, I think I've spent my 20 minutes. I would like to thank you for your attention. And of course, I will be at your disposal for questions either now or later in the discussion panel.
Thank you, Paris, for your presentation. I would like actually to invite people to write any questions that comes up at the Q&A chat. We will have a specific session for that, so feel free to bring any questions you have already. And then we can move to the presentation of the InclusiveSpaces project results and to project coordinator Floridea. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Panayotis. I would just kindly ask if it is possible to share, to allow Alice to share the screen. So for presenting the results of our project. So I think that she will do that now. Thank you very much. From the starting and then in a presentation mode. So what we have done until now in the inclusive space, it's really to focus all our work and our effort on the defining the contents and the ground baseline for a go ahead and having really innovation in a technological assistive and other aspect. And what we, I don't know if it's possible. No, we don't have the, okay, it's fine. I will go without presentation. Then when the presentation is running, it will be fine. So we mainly we finalized the work package 1 with a lot of deliverables, 4 deliverables only for that, but as well the first 2 deliverables for the technological assistive and assist technologies and the urban planning tools. And we basically did an effort in identify the needs of people in vulnerable situations. And I would like to spend some words on that. The people in vulnerable situations are all the people that are that face barriers during their life. So this includes people with disabilities, elderly, women and girls in all their diversities, people who really are in some way face these barriers in the use of the public space, of transport, and in achieving their key activities during the day. So what we have done, first of all, thanks to all the partners that did the deliverables, but as well the ground work in the pilot. We were to the reviewing the EU and international accessibility regulation, where there is a lot of regulation. We think that everything is done, but still most of this regulation is not implemented. And this is why we had to define 30 key performance indicators for trying to create this inclusive framework for assessing the design process and to engage both stakeholders and rights holder organizations. I would like to attract your attention on this differentiation. The stakeholders are the people or organization who have some stakes in something, so they have some kind of interest, but the rights holders are the people who have some rights in something. And this is really a shift in the our way to see the inclusiveness in inclusive space project. Like you see, I have like this kind of things for my badge, and that were released human rights and civic space for all, in the sense that really in our approach in the inclusiveness, we need to go from with this rights approach. So let's go. This is the first review of the current practices, and you can see a little bit the how complex is the regulation. So and where what we can use for which kind of space, or for which kind of sectors. So, for example, for built environment, for technology, for comfort, for the designers for all, we have different times and different regulations, and this is something that we need to consider and to be able to integrate in our universal design approach. I would just to spend a word in what is universal design approach. We have, of course, the universal design manual for some physical space that we have a tradition on that from the United States, from the law done in the 70s in the United States. They already started to build up this kind of manual. But then for example, for the digital space, we still don't add until the INDIMO project, where we were creating this universal design manual for digital solutions, for an intersectional for 6 intersectional profiles of the people that needs to use this digital solution in mobilities. And then now Inclusive Space adds one additional step, that is to create a universal design manual for both mobility, urban space, built environment, inside and outside. So this is the ambition that we had with the universal design approach. And there was this KPI development related to each we can say planning planning tools that are very related to the both to what is the quality of life KPIs, the user KPIs, and the business KPIs. We should not forget that this is an innovation action, and in Inclusive Space we have more than 8 between technological assistive technologies and urban planning tools. And so we need to deal with this. We need to define the KPIs for understanding if when we started the project, we were in A position, and when we finish, we are in B, C, Z. So this is a little bit the KPIs development. You can see for both sides, on the side of urban planning, but as the planning tools, but as well the assistive technology. I will just to spend some words on the assistive technologies, because okay, urban planning, we are more familiar. That is like some applications that are very related to people with disabilities, and who are facing with visible disability and invisible disabilities. And this is key. For example, still today, the Google map is not so cannot be so used by people with autism, for example, or people with down with who are with the down down. So I think that this is why inclusive space is working on the niche of people, but they are not a niche, because finally, if a tool is able to be used by people with invisible or visible mental cognitive disabilities, this it can be used by all. So, and even by people who at some moment they are more distracting, and so on. So I will just to really highlight this universal design approach that we need to keep in our mind. But for coming back to the assistive technologies, and we have already explained by Lydia, different kind of that, and there is a way to make leisure accessible to all as well. So for biking, for people with neurological or disabilities, or for getting in the sea for people with mobility disabilities, and so on, or for to be able to use the inside space. And then what is a key new step in our work in Cambiamo Changing Mobility, that is a very sui generis research institute cooperative that where we do research but as well action, and then we try to bring all the partners this research action in the advocacy at political in the political space in Europe and behind. And so what we have done is to use the community of practices that this is a tool that we used to use related to the to how to share different knowledge and the researchers there is not the one who's sharing the knowledge, it's really the one who is facilitating the knowledge coming from different perspectives, from users, for people with in vulnerable situation, for business, for policymakers, and so on. And what we have done this time was to run a community of practices with including the people in vulnerable situation, but including as well people with cognitive disabilities, cognitive and mental disabilities, and really was how we had the possibility to have the needs, to identify the needs, to identify the huge barriers that our co-citizens are facing when they are going in the hospital, where they are going in the public space, where they are going in a commercial centers. And sometimes we can be surprised at how we, without this inclusive design approach, we created a space that is not at all accessible, that is not presented the comfort standard that people with cognitive disability can need to have. So this is all the case that were presented pilots that we have, that are 6 pilots. They ran it at the community of practices, and was where we get it the needs. We detected the needs, and through that, with where we co-created as well through the different cards, different technique like the collage, like the visual. We really leave people to use the channel for communicating their needs that they were not able to use. And then we went through how we can address these things. So we went through the technologies that we have and to really to do this reality check and see, okay, how we can address the needs that we detected. And the technology as well were involved in this community of practices. So there was like this common ground and this way to gather the informations and the and as well the ambition. And then in the we like we said before, we went through this. The key, the important aspect is to go with this universal design, that approach, and universal design cards or tools that we can offer to operators, to policymakers, to municipally civil servants, to regulators, all people that need to deal with this huge effort for considering the needs of people in vulnerable situations, as well with an intersectional approach, a transformative gender approach, still in the public space and in the transport, women and girls and the LGBTIQ communities are lasted in between 60% and 9%. So we really need to deal with that, and we need to have a purpose in to draw this problem, and the operators and public space manager needs to know how to deal, and this is a societal issue. So this is a little bit the cards that have been done, the different aspects and characteristics that co-created the intersectional profile. And now we are running like different workshop around the different events where we are. For example, during the European Passenger Federation conference in Swindon a couple of weeks ago, we ran a workshop. We ran at the same workshop in the Ertico conference. Thanks to our colleagues who are in charge of dissemination, and Lydia, she has a very strong engagement of that for modify these cards, because it's true that in our consortium we have all what we need, but still we don't are only comprehensive. So we need to go outside and we need to revise what we have done. And then in the last, just this, I arrive to my last point, we did this very important, we implement this a methodology of future scenario and vision with a backcasting approach. And was really, we use the technique of going through our body. We do in the community of practices, we have done this exercise in filling the gap for achieving the cities for all. This is a little bit the different perspective, the different tools, the different way that each pilot used for running the community of practices, the future scenarios exercise. And of course, you will see there was more on digital, somebody used it as well, the digital tools and the AI. Somebody needs really going through the body, like I said, somebody other went to the college and so on. And so these are the key recommendations that were that we received from the person on the ground and from our partners. There is a huge effort in the collecting interviews, collecting, doing this ground work. So thank you very much to all partners. I'm just like the glorious note taker of this, but there is behind a lot of effort of the consortium in this task. And that's all. I open we can go through the to the panel now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Floridea, for sharing your insights with us. Actually, before moving to the panel discussion, we have a very special presentation from our keynote speaker, Maria Cayelido from the CIFS project, to give also a different perspective of accessibility in the culture. Maria, you're muted.
Great. Hi, hello. It's really great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting us, the Shift project. So we're here on Green Week, so we can all imagine a future where green, sustainable energy powers every home, powers every business, powers every museum or other organization. But here at Shift, we can also imagine that these technologies and other technological advances can also be used, technological advances like artificial intelligence, like machine learning, like advances in haptics and audio synthesizers can be harnessed to make cultural heritage more accessible, inclusive, and of course, appealing and enjoyable for all. So this future, I think everybody here is in agreement, is within reach. We believe the green transition is one of the greatest challenges and opportunities of our time, but so is the digital transition, the digital transformation rather. So combined, they can really revolutionize many aspects of our lives. At Shift, that I represent, we're a project funded by Horizon Europe. We're 13 partners, and what we're working towards is making cultural heritage more accessible, inclusive, and appealing for all, using advances in the technologies I mentioned before. We're harnessing these advances to create toolkits that will democratize access to cultural heritage and hopefully also make it more sustainable and inclusive. So among these tools are, first of all, a visual toolkit that will actually uses, because we're now at the end of this long run of our project. We're counting down to our final 2 pilots. So we're using AI and machine learning to enable automatic transcription of cultural heritage content, to generate interpreted texts, and to create new content. We also have an audio toolkit, which is using advances in audio synthesizers to create applications that generate cultural heritage descriptions, soundscapes, and other text-to-speech tools that are designed to deliver an emotional response and to increase accessibility. We have a haptics toolkit, which enables multi-sensory experiences and interactions with digital objects, digital cultural heritage assets. For instance, users can remotely explore something like the Pergamon altar from the ancient city of Pergamon that is housed in Berlin, or they can use a trephine, a surgical instrument, to manually drill a hole in someone's skulls. This is an instrument that is housed in the Semmelweis Museum for the History of Medicine, which is also a partner. Those with visual impairments can use haptic gloves to navigate paintings or monuments. You can find out a lot about these by visiting our website. I put the QR code here. We also have a Shift accessibility framework that actually brings together all these toolkits and creates tools that allow users with disabilities and other challenges to actually explore cultural heritage assets. So all our tools enable people facing particular challenges and disabilities to partake in this greater good called cultural heritage. In this sense, I don't know, I can hear somebody. I'm not sure who I can hear, but in this sense, Shift has started in the realm of cultural heritage, but the lessons from this project are really universal. So we've learned that inclusivity isn't just a buzzword, it's a foundational principle for any transformation, whether it is cultural, technological, or other. We found that inclusivity has to be at the front of our minds from beginning to end of our projects. We found that a successful green transition doesn't just focus on the environmental impact, just as a successful digital transformation doesn't just focus on the digital impact, it must also consider the social impact. So we're truly trying to build an inclusive and accessible and sustainable future. And if we really are working towards that, we need to make sure that our technologies are accessible to all and that they're not just available to people in big cities or wealthy communities, but they're also available for marginalized population in remote areas, in low income households, and in communities that are facing different types of challenges. What I'd like to kind of showcase now, as we are, as I said, towards the end of our 3-year Horizon Europe journey with Shift, is our XR accessibility framework. That's our extensive reality accessibility framework. It uses generative AI along with all our other tools to create accessible content for extended reality museum environments. It features haptic interactions and all our other accessibility features. So I'm going to play a little video for you and I'm going to run through it because otherwise it's going to take a bit long. But I'm going to first showcase our creation of 3D objects, cultural heritage objects, that is, in our case. So this is a trephine, and we generated a 3D model from a 2D image. This is an automatic transcription of this instrument, so you can find out more about it. These transcriptions and descriptions and interpretive descriptions, rather, can be tailored to different types of audiences, audiences facing disabilities, audiences that have particular skills or are very young and need maybe a simpler description. And using our tools, you can also experience using a trephine, which, as I said, is an instrument that was used to drill through a skull. So you could actually experience how it would almost feel to drill through a skull. You can't hear this, but it's actually sound, which is a bit gory. And you can also feel the weight of this, or slightly feel, I should say, the weight of this instrument. We also have an application that creates, that helps actually people facing accessibility issues interact with paintings by creating 3D copies of them. For example, this is another painting housed in Munich, in I think the Gemalte Galleria. It's a painting of Gort Giese. Here is one description for this painting for the visually impaired. There's different descriptions of this painting targeted at different groups. Users can also navigate this painting and use a hot and cold method to navigate to...
Maria, sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we cannot see the video playing, actually.
Yeah, this is also my comment. We don't see anything. We just see Shift XR accessibility framework, nothing more.
Oh, I'm so sorry about this. I thought you would be able to see this. Hold on. What if I share this view and not the presenter view? Is this any different for you?
We don't see any share document right now.
No? Sorry. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to share a link with you later on so you can explore it yourselves.
For sure, if you share your screen, we'll be able to watch it.
Can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay. So here is I'll go back very quickly. Here is our 3D object. Yes, it's a trephine. It was used to drill into people's skulls about 200 to 300 years ago. Here are descriptions. You would be able to see these descriptions by using our haptic tool, our 3D goggle, or VR headset rather. And it creates descriptions for visually impaired people, as I said, or different types of groups facing accessibility issues, or people with more or less knowledge about cultural heritage. They can be tailor-made. Here you can actually use the trephine. It's a bit gory, to be honest with you. So there we go. You can feel the weight and the sound. You can interact with a 3D painting and navigate it using our haptic glove. So you would be wearing a glove and essentially navigating it, able to focus on important pieces and be guided through the painting, listening to different types of interpretive text, descriptive text. I'm going to go a bit further down. You can also receive audio and haptic feedback that could help you navigate the painting. If you had accessibility issues related, for example, to sight. Finally, you could also explore bigger objects. For example, here we've got the Pergamon altar. It's a large-scale 3D model. You can explore and interact with it. It's a 3D model. It's one of the first versions of the altar, where you can focus on particular elements of the altar. It can navigate hierarchically and let you explore this. This is housed in the Pergamon Museum, which is part of our partner, the State Museums of Berlin. So we've explored all of this. And we also, just like you, tried to survey, to ask questions of both people with disabilities, but also of the general public, to find out more of what they thought of adopting these type of tools, whether they thought they would be useful and what type of tools they wanted. And what we found was that pretty much everybody, and particularly younger generations, was very much in favor of adopting these types of tools, and they thought they would make cultural heritage more accessible for them. And they also told us that they would be much more likely to visit cultural heritage institutions and engage with cultural heritage assets if such technologies were used. But at the same time, we also found that these technologies were also used or beginning to be used up to a surprisingly big extent. So we surveyed cultural heritage professionals around the world, and rather around Europe mostly. And they told us that 43% of them are using AI-driven tools to catalog, to tell stories, and so on. Around 40% are embracing virtual reality to create immersive exhibitions. Around 31% have adopted augmented reality for interactive experiences. But what they also told us was that they were facing a lot of challenges. And the challenges, I think, are fairly easy to guess. So the challenges in most cases had to do with budget constraints. So almost 6 out of 10 told us that for their institution to adopt these type of accessible technologies, of inclusive technologies, of appealing technologies, they would need more money. They had a lack of financial resources. The other thing they said that they lacked to adopt these things was technical expertise. And almost half the respondents we questioned were worried about this. And essentially, this indicated a skills gap that prevented many from fully integrating new digital tools. Here, I have to say that I work for an organization called the Heritage Management Organization, that is actually an organization that upskills cultural heritage institutions. So we all saw that there's a great wish for cultural heritage institutions to become more accessible. There's great excitement about these tools, and many are already trying to use them, but there's common challenges across the cultural heritage sector. And I feel that it's very likely that these challenges, and from what I heard from Paris, I'm sorry, from what I heard also from, the name of this Inclusive Spaces presenter escapes me, but I think that these are possibly challenges that are faced across the board when talking about accessibility, when talking about adopting new technology. So to address these, we are working to make our technologies more inclusive, and we're also at the moment piloting them to a wide variety of audiences. We've already held 2 pilot events. One was held in Romania, in Sibiu, where our partner, the National Association of Libraries, Public Libraries of Romania, held a conference and also a pilot event. Another pilot event was held in Budapest, where the Semmelweis Museum of Medical History piloted lots of our applications with a variety of audiences facing accessibility issues. And our upcoming pilot is on July 9th to July July 11th. It's in Munich. It's by SMB, the State Museums of Berlin. It's I really like the title. It's called Please Touch, and you're all invited to take part. This is all from us at the moment. We will have another pilot taking place in Kniazevac, in the Homeland Museum of Kniazevac, that is in Serbia, and we will be very happy to showcase more exciting applications for you. For example, in Kniazevac, they have applications that revolve a lot around creating images, from images from the wonderful paintings and museum houses, and many more. But as I said, for more and for examples, please follow our social media, and also follow Shift, sign up for our newsletter, or check out our website. There is many issues in common, and that's why we've teamed up with the AccesS project. I think there's many goals in common, and would love to see more from you. And you're welcome to take a look at all our publications. And here I have to add that we also have a tailor-made publication that deals with inclusion. It's a book issued by the Balkan Museum Network that showcases best practices regarding inclusion in museums. But again, I feel that many of these lessons and messages would be applicable to a number of different types of tasks, possibly also applying to either of your two projects. Thank you very much for this. I'd like to hear more about both of these projects. Thanks.
Thank you also, Maria, for this exciting presentation. SIFT project is actually more advanced than AccesS and InclusiveSpaces that are on their first year of implementation. So it was really nice to see actual application of your results and the demo case. And we will be happy to connect more and continue this interaction because as the core of this workshop, accessibility is not only part of accessing the built environment and navigating this, but it includes also having accessible services for all, and the experience of culture is among these. We can move now to the panel discussion. And I would also like to invite people again to share any questions in the Q&A chat. We can discuss this later. Lydia, please, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello again. So yes, we are going to start now the panel discussion, Inclusive Innovation for the Green Transition. And we have our three panelists, Paris Focaides, Florida Di Chomo, and Maria Cacchelido. I apologize for my pronunciation. Hopefully it was clear. So they have presented three different projects, but now we are going to enter a bit more into some details regarding inclusion, but also this green transition and sustainability, as this is the framework of today's event. So on the first topic that we have for this panel discussion, so how accessibility boosts just transition and green transitions, we have two questions. And the first one is, how can improving accessibility in urban design actively contribute to both environmental sustainability and social equity in cities? So I would like to give the floor, I'm going to start this round with Paris, then Florida, and then back to my mind is
Maria, back
names
to Maria.
now. Yes, Maria, indeed. And then I will change the order. So then, Paris, please go ahead and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So very often when we are requested to describe our field, this may cover different aspects. It may cover energy, it may cover smartness, it may cover the environment, it may cover social aspects, but the fact is that we have a big umbrella under which all these topics are included. And this is the umbrella of sustainability. So to that end, as engineers and as researchers in the field of sustainability, one dimension that we have to integrate into our practices and into our way of understanding things is the accessibility. This is something that it's a fact. We didn't have it, at least many of us, for many years. And this is something that has started recently to be promoted, integrated. And to my point of view, this should be established as one of the main concepts that the researchers of the field of sustainability should include. So whenever we discuss about sustainability, to have the aspect of energy, to have the aspect of the environment, to have the aspect of the smartness, and the aspect of accessibility. So our main challenge as researchers, and also within AccesS project, but with all the other projects that we have in our portfolio, is to consider accessibility as a main pillar of sustainability. So when discussing about sustainability, also include the aspect of accessibility. And this more or less answers to this question. To my point of view, we should do the reverse engineering of that. We should start by sustainability and admitting and promoting and establishing the fact that under sustainability, accessibility should be one of the pillars. And if we do this exercise, and if we then consider what are the other pillars of sustainability, we can then mix and match and overlap accessibility with the other aspects of sustainability. That is accessibility with the environment, accessibility with energy, accessibility with the social aspects, and of course, accessibility with the financial aspects. There are some values that are beyond a profit and loss analysis, and accessibility is one of these values. So we cannot face accessibility as, let's say, a KPI that has a yes or no, that has a crucial dead point where we decide whether the buildings should be accessible or not. We should see accessibility as an aspect of respect to those groups of our societies that are in need of enhanced accessibilities within the built environment, and as said, establish the accessibility pillar as one of the main pillars of sustainability. And I would like to close with, let's say, by setting a question that we had with all the partners when the AccesS concept was developed. So at that point, we were trying to identify who are those engineers, who are those scientists, who are those researchers that are focusing on accessibility of the built environment. And the answer was very simple. Everyone should be, let's say, among the researchers, the engineers, the designers that are concerned for accessibility aspects. All elements of buildings should be also adapted to the needs of enhanced accessibility. And in the same, let's say, concept, sustainability should also adapt its definition and include certainly a pillar of accessibility. From this point on, at least to my perception and to the messages that I'm giving to our students, our researchers, is that sustainability doesn't have 4 pillars, it has 5 pillars, and the 5th pillar is the accessibility.
Thank you, Paris. Great. So I will give the floor now to Floridea.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sustainability needs really to deal with the different aspects, and more and more to have a resilient society, we need really to be all on the same boat. It's not possible to have a resilient society if we don't have accessible space, accessible mobility, accessible tools for running and for having a good life, and the necessary comfort. I would like to just to add, not to add, but to say that the sustainability is can be only if the rights are, the human rights are there as well. And the human rights include as well the accessibility, affordability, and accessibility in all the aspects that are physical and we can say intangible. Once again, if a woman with disabilities is harassed in the public space, it's a lack of accessibility for her in the public space. So I think that really if a racialized woman with disability is discriminated, is an intangible aspect of the accessibility, but still is inaccessibility for her because this person will avoid to use public space, or when she's using public space, she will be very afraid. So I think that it's key that we keep on the same base, on the same plan, the what is the inclusiveness and the sustainability. And then one additional aspect, if we don't have enough space for, or if the space is not constructed within the universal design and for people with visible and invisible disabilities, of course, the caregivers need to take care of the people with visible and invisible disabilities, and this take care will be most of time by a private car. So if the society is not able to offer the public transport, the right built environment, the space where people can move in a comfortable way, people in vulnerable situations, we are failure as well the goal of sustainability, because we are needed to use private cars that can be electric, but still we don't solve the problem of the electric cars, because electric cars needs batteries, needs energy, needs critical materials, and this is more and more a question of sustainability as well. There are or in more and more question of resilience of our societies, more and more a question of just transition. So I think that I would put on the core of our sustainability the human rights as well. That is a key point for climate change, but as well for inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Floridea. And last but not least, Maria, please.
Hi there. Floridea, apologies for before not remembering your name, which is actually wonderful. So we certainly found that accessibility is a huge issue when it comes to enjoying the benefits of cultural heritage. So if we're talking about social equity and we're talking accessibility, improving accessibility is a big factor. And by improving accessibility, we mean improving accessibility for possible users of cultural heritage, citizens that are finding it hard to use already existing networks, transport networks, for example, to make their way to museums, or are finding it hard to access materials when they get there. But we're also talking about cost. We're talking about cost-effective solutions, because often a major barrier to accessibility is cost. So in our surveys, I'm sorry, I thought I had these numbers somewhere, but I don't. But we've had a number of users, either facing disabilities or not facing disabilities, saying that a major barrier for accessibility was cost and distance. And in this sense, I believe that, urban design can very, very, very actively make sure that more of us can enjoy everything that our wonderful societies have currently on offer, all these amazing benefits that include access to fantastic museums, cultural heritage, historical sites, and also enjoy and live our lives to the full, to the max. Whereas when it comes to universal design, I think we now all of us accept that this is a key issue. At Shift, we've tried to adhere to the principles of universal design all throughout the life of this project, and it's a major aspect of the project, and it's also being addressed not just in the planning stages of the project, but also during our pilots and also during all the workshops we've held with various groups of users throughout Europe. So it's something we're definitely paying attention to, and we would very much welcome further universal design activity in designing cultural heritage spaces, but also generally designing our city environments and built environments even outside the cities and smaller communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. So you already answered the second question. That's great. So I think we kind of understand that accessibility it's a key has a key role in sustainability and achieving sustainability, and it needs to be a transversal theme when developing any solution towards building sustainability. And now let's focus a bit on the role that universal design can have in ensuring that green transitions leaves no one behind, especially now that we are moving in evolving a smart city environment. Everything needs to be smart, etc. So I will give the floor now then to Floridea to answer this second question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lydia. I don't want to repeat too much myself, but really, maybe we need to come back to the philosophical approach of the universal goods and the common goods, and we need to start to think about the mobility services, public space, built environment, hospitals, like this. They cannot exist if they are not accessible to all, and we can, and of course we cannot leave anybody behind, but this cannot be just a slogan, not leave anybody behind. That I have the impression that most of the time is used like a slogan in our just transition narrative. This should be just a reality. I mean, we have the law, we have the regulation, we have the sufficient technology for achieving this environmental to achieve this green transition or just transition. We have what we need. I mean, we know how to do the work side. We know how to do the bike lanes with the track for bicycle, and not just a residual space where even children cannot go, because if they are not so stable, they cannot use this bike lane. So we or if we don't know, that is, we were in another project, it was Refocus, and some engineering schools said we don't have courses on how to do bike lanes, or if they are very residual, or how to do work side for where all people are not left behind with their different vulnerabilities, we can say. So the only way to achieve an environmentally friendly, climate change resilient, and inclusive spaces is to implement a universal design approach. Now, it's not easy because we were during the Article conference where we ran the first workshop with the 300 more cards, like Lydia said before. We saw that we forget some invisible disabilities, and the person with this disability was there, and she already had she struggled to be recognized like a people with a person with disabilities, and in addition to that, we don't provide them the right space, the inclusive space. I mean, this is like really unjust, and then there is another aspect about that that is very related with the tenets of the justice. One is the distribution, okay, that is more related with the goods distribution. The second one is the recognition. It seems that we recognize people in vulnerable situation at this point of the story. The third one is procedural. We need to have a safe space where person with living with disabilities or in a vulnerable situation, they can express themselves with their needs, their concern, and their ambition. So this is one. And then we have a fourth tenet that is the restorative. And restorative means that we need to have the perspective of loss and damage that we have done to people in a vulnerable situation, and we need to repair for the damage that we have done before. And for sure, we cannot continue to do that. And first we start, better we will be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Floridea. Paris, anything you would like to add?
Yes. First of all, okay, many of us are aware of the term of the universal design, but just for those attendees of the audience that are not aware of what the universal design is, the universal design is a design philosophy that aims to make products, buildings, environment, services usable by all people. And actually, this was a concept that was delivered by a wheelchair user. So an American architect, Ronald Mays, was the one who delivered this universal design concept in the late 80s. And actually, the universal design is based on four main principles. This is inclusiveness, accessibility by default, proactiveness, and of course, sustainability and flexibility. And this also links to the previous question, what is the relation between accessibility and sustainability? Now, if we want to be specific in ways that the universal design can ensure a green transition and that no one is left behind, I could just focus on 5 fields very quickly, very briefly, that can be integrated into the universal design concept. The first one is, and this is also our major concern in the AccesS project, is equitable access to smart infrastructure. So people with enhanced accessibility standards should not be left behind when we promote and when we develop the smartness concepts. So we should make sure that digital and physical infrastructure are accessible to all. This should be one of the fields where we see the interaction between universal design and green transition. I would also comment on the green innovation and the inclusive participation of all citizens categories in order to enable a broader segment of the population to engage with the benefits of green transition. Another aspect which is highly promoted, but it should also be adapted to the current needs, are the public spaces. We need to have resilient public spaces, so we should see the universal design principles being more integrated into public spaces. Also, the data-driven solutions that we promote should be without any exclusion. So smart cities, AI services, IoT services should follow the principles of universal design. And I would also like to mention a fifth aspect, which I would see that it's the social justice in climate policy. So we should embed accessibility and usability in the early stages of planning in order to secure that we have a just transition, ensuring environmental justice for all citizens and mainly for citizens with enhanced needs in accessibility.
Thank you, Paris. Okay, now we are going to be moving to another dimension that we can find in the green transition. That is the competitiveness, and it's also, as we have seen, also the theme that we have today, powering a fair and competitive green transition. So thinking about that, we have in the panel now the competitiveness through inclusive and energy conscious design, and we have two questions. The first one is, in what ways can investing in accessibility and energy efficient design become a competitive advantage for cities and businesses? So I would like to then start now with Maria. So please, the floor is yours.
Again, I'm going to go back to our research. People are more likely to go visit places where they can reach, that can be reached, that are accessible, that they feel comfortable in. So in that sense, in a competitive tourist market with everybody trying to visit, I certainly think it's more attractive to have a city that is accessible. It's also more attractive if you want to attract diverse talent. So if you're planning to make your city a hub, make it a place where people that are willing to work, are happy to work, are happy to create, want to come to, creating and investing in accessibility and energy efficiency seems to me like a wise move. Again, at Shift, we've been trying to take all of this into account and offer accessible solutions and solutions that increase accessibility when it comes to the cultural heritage sector. But it would definitely be much, much easier if the whole ecosystem, if the whole urban environment, if the whole environment was more accessible and energy efficient. Absolutely.
Thank you, Maria. And now I will give the floor to Paris. Do we have... Did we lose Paris in the meantime? Okay, maybe then Floridea in the meantime, if you could.
Actually, I think that in the it's true that in the European policies we are assisting to like a little bit a shift from to the competitiveness in green transition, and it's fine. But I think that we need to think about this competitiveness in a way consistent with the European model that is our major assets. That is the compass cities, is the inclusive cities, the inclusive space, and so on. We should not think about the competitiveness that now we will start to do huge using of batteries, for example. Our competitiveness is really the model that we have and the inclusive model that we we had as an heritage, like as well. I think Maria was talking a lot about heritage. I think that this is what we need to keep, we need to save, we need to care about, and we need to export to beyond Europe. Within Europe, because in 27 we have very different background story, so it's already a huge ambition to export, to share this model of inclusive space, inclusive mobility services, to use the technology with a really human factor approach. That is other key wording. But so, but then we need really to use this this model as the driver model for our competitiveness. And this is the way to not leave anybody behind. And on the top of that, this model is not so costly because it's maintained. I mean, it's much less costly to enlarge like a work site or a bike lanes, or to put some sensor in the light for understanding when people in situation of vulnerability are crossing the street, then to do like a super highways with when supercars can go through. So I think that we need to think about our model of competitiveness in Europe, and for sure there is space. It could be even a driver, the inclusive approach for this competitiveness. I mean, people, more and more, we have around the world and in Europe, climate assemblies related to the good life. People are just tired to not living in a good life. So let's give them the opportunity, and let's go to create it together with them, for them, nothing for us without us. With this is a nice lemma that we need to keep for having this model. And this is for sure will achieve the competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you, Floridea. And last, we have recovered Paris. So please, Paris, we are with the first question on competitiveness. So anything you would like to add?
Yes, I will be very short. I believe that in this case we should consider the different, let's say, aspects in two fields. The first field is the cost-related field, and the other one is a non-cost-related field. So, for example, enhancing reputation or innovation by following, let's say, solutions that are improving the accessibility of the built environment is something that is one of the benefits that we can have. Or compliance and risk reduction. That is, if we have early investments, then this will avoid future regulatory penalties or needs for retrofits. So these are with those, let's say, aspects that we would consider that are non-cost related. And we also have those competitive advantages that can be achieved by investing in accessibility that are cost related, such as, for example, if we attract with our good reputation, talents, investments in a building project due to the enhanced accessibility aspects, this is a cost-related side effect, let's say, result that we may have from enhancing accessibility. At the same time, something which is very important and has not been mentioned is the customer loyalty. So if we create conditions and environments, for example, for a chain of hotels or for a chain of, let's say, malls or a chain of shops that are accessibility friendly and but customer loyalty is delivered out of that. This is also something that can reinforce responsibility and trust, and of course, have a competitive advantage for the organization adopting it.
Thank you, Paris. Very interesting points that we have heard so far. We have another section, but I would like to give the opportunity to the audience to actually ask any questions. I don't see in the Q&A anything yet, but I would like to invite you to just raise your hand to pose a question, or you can also feel free to answer the questions that we have talked about so far, because it's also interesting to hear from everyone else. So please don't be shy, raise your hand or just write it down in the Q&A section on the Teams, and we will have a look at that. I think we have a shy audience today. If there are no questions or you do not wish to participate today, we can continue with the next section that we have. Maybe this will be also interesting for all of you. Okay, so then if I see a hand up, I will interrupt, and then we can let the audience take over a bit. But in the meantime, so we have the last section, it's engaging marginalized communities in urban innovation. I think this has already been mentioned in all of the sections so far and in the presentations. This is also essential for anything that we do, and especially in sustainability. And the first question that we have here is, what practical methods have you seen or used that successfully engage underrepresented communities in co-design processes? I think we have heard some examples already in the presentations by the 3 projects, but I would like to ask you to maybe highlight one of them and let us know why this work well in your case. And for this, I will ask Floridea to start first.
Okay, thank you very much, Lydia. Actually, for this, the method that we used, like we said in the presentation, was really the community of practices, where we give to the research, researchers. We use researchers as facilitators of different knowledge, and this knowledge was coming from the people in vulnerable situations. I would like really to highlight these aspects, because this is where the co-design is very an active co-design. We have the starting point from the persons, and really always said it's difficult to find the people who are in a situation with disability and so on. It's not so difficult. Actually, the rate of answer of this group was very high and very consistent during all the sessions. We had very lower not participation or give up of the session. So I think that it's just it's the same when it said when we saw a all-male panel, they said, women were not available because maybe you didn't look for too many. So it's the same, and the people in vulnerable situation, in a vulnerable situation, they are very happy to engage themselves, because they know if they have the possibility to co-create, to co-design, they will have as well the possibility to work, to have a better life. I mean, it's not like a question of a taste. It's really a question of to have a better life.
Yes, give them the opportunity, indeed. Thank you, Floridea. So very briefly, first Paris and then Maria. Please go ahead.
Okay, concerning Access project, actually in the initial stages, one of our main goals was to engage stakeholders and adopt co-creation principles for the tools and the solutions that we would develop in terms of the project. My presentation actually today was mainly for those activities that we followed towards collecting the input of stakeholders. We had a total of 7 workshops, and what we presented earlier was actually the outcome of the discussion, the open discussion that we had with the relevant stakeholders. At the same time, I would like to refer to another aspect of our project, which is related to the user-centered design approach that we aim to deliver. Under the work package 2 of the project, and this is actually done, it was done by including data collection in form of surveys, interviews, focus groups discussions with end users, with people with disabilities, disability organizations, and so forth. And this was implemented across 6 demo sites with the purpose to understand existing needs and the expectations of the citizens in those fields. So these were practices that were followed by the Access project towards establishing the definition of co-design and co-creation. In any case, I would also like to refer to the fact that the digital twin aspect, which is one of the aspects that we envision and we aspire in our project, is also by definition an aspect that allows for integration of users' feedback in digital models that mimic and present physical assets. And the fact is that these conditions make it much easier for underrepresented citizens groups and tenants in the case of buildings to interact with a digital based environment for decision making. That could be improvement of conditions, accessibility, safety, even comfort, because one of the aspects that we have seen in the Access workshops was the aspect of the reduced comfort for people in need, for people with enhanced needs in accessibility. So these are the let's say perceptions of the Access process in a project in this point.
Great, thank you, Paris. And to close the panel discussion, please, Maria, very briefly.
Well, I have to say the first thing we did was we actually involved a partner that represents a huge community of people that are facing accessibility issues in our project. So one of our partners is DBSV, that is the German Association for the Blind. So our project was initially conceived anyway with a partner that represented part of this audience, possible audience, user base, and so on. And then we very much like AccesS tried to involve the relevant groups throughout our project, from planning to implementation. We held needs assessments, workshops, we held demonstrations, we conducted participatory usability testing, we used collaborative co-design, we used design thinking, we used participatory testing and validation. We essentially went changed a number of times and them on different communities, and we feel that this is something that we will have to keep doing because technology is advancing fast. We are, we can always go back to our target audiences and target user bases and see what they feel and if anything can be improved. And I also have to bring in here another initiative from one of our partners. I've mentioned them before, the Balkan Museum Network, that have produced a book on inclusion. They also have an initiative. It's called the Balkan Museum Access Group. So they received awards for this innovative practice by the Zero Project, and they essentially engage under communities in co-designing processes, and they do it throughout. But what they do a lot is they use a lot of peer learning groups. And this is a very, very important part of the learning of the organizations, sharing experiences between between peer learning groups. So, all these approaches have been used, including also in BBR and SHOM and all our cultural heritage partners. And obviously, all these have been used with support from the rest of our partners, from Forth, from the Technical University of Munich, from two SMEs that have also been helping produce our tools. And we're always, we keep going back and striving for increased accessibility.
Great. Thank you, Maria. And thank you to the other two panelists for today. And now I'm going to give the floor back to Panagiotis. She will do the closing remarks for today. Thank you again to the panelists.
Thank you also from my
Thank
side.
you to you, Lydia.
Thank you also from my side. This was a really nice discussion that you all brought in the table today after the results of the project. Well, some key remarks I understand we all can keep is the importance of embedding universal design and accessibility into the design and operation of the built environment. And of great importance are technology, enabling technologies, including both software and hardware innovations to provide access in different services. And it's also useful to stress out that all projects worked in close collaboration with end users. So a lot of data collection was followed in the forms of survey, workers, focus groups. So I think this is a really good point to start bringing the change and the transition to a more accessible environment. We will have this video recorded and uploaded in the project's website, and you can follow up on our website and social media, and keep being updated on project results and other events that we can organize together or separately. It was a pleasure to be part today of the European Sustainable Energy Week as a Sustainable Energy Day, and share first insights and findings from projects implementation and establish the foundation for creating climate neutral, sustainable and inclusive environments, because the green transition cannot leave anyone behind. Thank you very much for attending this meeting and hope to see you again in the future. Bye, everyone.